All right,
Yeah.
guys. Thank you for this time. I think this is going to be more of a casual conversation than it is professional or anything. But our main focus is the future of TV in Zimbabwe, in our birth country. Um, Funny enough, we're all over the place. Everyone who's here is all over the place, trying to be as creative, but we're being creative in the wrong places, if I may say. I would love to be doing what I'm doing here in Canada, in Zimbabwe. Also, having left a huge responsibility of a project there, I find myself in a place where I'm thinking, oh, okay, what has gone wrong in our landscape in terms of us for the creatives to be found wanting to go back or wanting to build the industry more than it is now. But yeah, I think to kick off the conversation, probably to just have everyone introduce themselves again for the sake of our audiences. And I'll go last. Let's honor the lady though. You need to unmute there.
Oh, yes. I hope you can hear me now.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, perfect. Gentlemen, thank you so much for inviting me to this conversation. I think when Plot reached out to me, I thought it was a very important conversation to have, particularly now with the direction that we're headed in terms of content creation and all the different directions that we're all being pulled in. But just very quickly, for those that may not know me who will be watching this, my name is Audrey Schwander. I cut my broadcasting teeth back home in Zimbabwe back in 2002. I will not be telling you my age. You can do the math. with the national broadcaster for about a decade until I moved to ZFM. We actually were the pioneers that helped launch what was termed to be the first privately owned a radio station. Of course, that is still debatable. That's a topic we can always discuss later on. So from there, then I moved to South Africa for purely personal reasons. But I resonate with what Nick said in his introduction to say, there's limitations here and there that then see us moving into different directions so we can really tap into our creativity to the fullest potential for us to be able to reach that. Yeah.
Greetings. Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome. My name is Mhako. I'm so many things. I'm a creative director. I run a couple of projects, but I'm heavily involved in the media. I run an online media space that focuses on the creative space called earGROUND, but I've also written for a couple of publications from Zimbabwe to the Herald to Newsday, and I've so much interest on television since I think my days of college.
Oh, wow. As for me, my name is Tony Manyangadze. I'm currently a postgraduate student at Durban University of Technology. I'm doing my master's in journalism. Prior to that, I also teach. I'm also a lecturer there at the Durban University of Technology. I teach second-year students. I also write for Zimbabwe. That's where I met Claude, and I've been seeing him doing his thing on earGROUND. And yeah, I really respect the platform. I've also worked for different organizations in Zim, including Chingeto Zimbabwe Trust, which is now Chingeto Africa. So yeah, basically that's me.
Excellent. Well, I think with all the introductions having been done, well, mine is pretty simple and straightforward. I'm a media specialist, also specializing in TV broadcast and film. I think most of my work in Zimbabwe, South Africa. I did some work in Ghana and also Kenya, but now mostly I'm pretty much mostly based in Canada. in the western part of Canada, and still practicing. But to get us going with this conversation, I think let's just ask the question, which is why we're here. The future of TV in Zimbabwe. Where do we see it? I'll probably start with you, Tony. Where do we see it from your own perspective?
Well, thank you for that, Nico. It is a very interesting question. But before we even start talking about the media in Zim, I think we need to then understand the global sort of environment that we are actually currently living in. It's a global world, and currently, as we speak, there are over 51% of the world's population is on social media, is on the internet. So you go to first world countries, I'm sure you, Nico, and Claude can attest to this, everything is now moving digital, from, analog to digital to even to the internet. So you have got your smartphones, smart cars, and smart televisions. So for us people in the media, we need to be sort of we need to understand such factors before we even start considering about the future of TV in Zimbabwe. So in, like, for instance, I believe that now it is technology and customer behaviors on the internet that are actually driving technology, that are driving things like what business, the directions that business should take. So those are some of the global factors that we really need to then understand. And then when we then talk about Zimbabwe, the progress has been very slow in terms of the media. The progress has been very slow. To some extent, we can actually even argue and say it's actually retrogressing. Why? Because Zimbabwe is one of the first countries in the region to actually get a television station. But 40 years down the line, we still have one. South Africa had television way later than Zimbabwe, but now they've got plenty. They've got several. They've got regional. They've got very local TV and radio stations and even newspapers. But in Zim, that has not been the case. So where is the future? It's a bit. Is TV the future? It's a bit somehow debatable, especially considering Zim and where we are coming from. You also have to understand the things like, is it even viable for us to actually have TV now as a business? Is it even viable, especially considering the fact that most media houses around the world, even here in South Africa, are actually struggling? So to me, I actually think we might be too late, but then I'm sure we can maybe hear from the others, but I think for now we're a bit late, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to unmute. Talking about being late is also something we can definitely consider and argue at the same time. There are benefits of being late, and also just the disadvantages that have coupled and seen the emergence of us wanting to create. I think there's a lot of content creators now that are out there. And I hope we can point at some of them during this conversation. But let me give a point probably to Audrey and say Kwese TV came, and they announced in a long, was it long? Probably sweet and sour letter from the CEO Mboweni that we're done, we're out. We can't maintain this. Probably given that, Audrey, what would you probably say is the future? Is Zim going to recover from what Kwese had done? Was that an indicator of the landscape that TV is not going to be the future, or we're going to be stuck? What do you think?
So I think television broadcasting is not dying. again, it is debatable, but I just think it needs to be transformed. Instead of content creators looking for people that consume TV, it's, you know, they should be looking for people that consume content wherever they are, not just on the television box. And I think we've seen that happening with a lot of live streaming platforms that have been emerging. I mean, yourselves as filmmakers have been utilizing those platforms, your Netflix, and, you know, even on YouTube, we've seen a lot of Zimbabweans actually utilizing that. And it's been such a beauty to watch you know, that creativity take place, because before, trying to dismantle a monopoly that has been there for 40 years, which is ZBC, obviously has been very difficult. For starters, they're working with a shoestring budget. I mean, even if you come with your production, they're probably not even going to be able to give you a return on investment that makes sense to you. So people look elsewhere for them to be able to make a viable business out of their content. I think it'll take a while. I remember the ministry at some point came out saying that they have, you know, they're going to be opening up the airwaves, I think 12 stations, and ZBC had owning 6 of those, and the rest of them being given to private owners that are going to be bidding for licenses. That was 2 years ago. It still hasn't happened up to now. I don't know what the sticking point is. And as journalists, sometimes, you know, we try to investigate to see what could be the issues. Is there political will? Are the resources there? Are the funds there? And those are the questions that we ask. With Kwesa TV, I was quite disappointed. I always thought they would make it, particularly because they had a niche when it came to sports. And I think that is a product that a lot of people enjoy watching, not myself personally, but, you know, a lot of people enjoy watching sports. I thought they would have been able to survive that. But I think there was a red flag there that was an indicator as to where television is going, and how really people that are making content have to adapt to where people want to be watching their content, not necessarily on the TV box, but on our laptops, just as we're having this conversation right now. And just like the people who are going to be watching us are not going to be watching us on television, but on their laptops and their smartphones and those kind of devices.
Absolutely. I think it's looking into the monopoly aspect of having a station for so long, and no policies changing. Mindset tends to remain stagnant for a while. But ZTN came. I'm glad I was involved with its you know, foundations to where I left it, and the plan then, you could tell it was looking into challenging what ZBC has, and even the studios set up and everything. It's still to challenge what is already existed, but we haven't done enough to convince our audiences. During the lockdowns, some interesting programming that went on the streaming, especially on social media, coming off the studios and stuff like that. But is that enough, Plot, to then convince the audience that is going to be told, oh no, we're close to having those licenses released, and already there's been talk that those licenses are going to the same people that are similar to what ZTN is, which is Zim Papers, and it's going to be the same old setup where the content is literally controlled, is not as independent as you would want. Would you envision Audrey report the same way she does, where she is in Zimbabwe on a different channel that is private?
I think we have a crisis, a serious one, a deep-rooted crisis that we have inherited for so many years because of, you know, political interference and the need to sort of curtail the media space in Zimbabwe. And we have noticed a move from a one time when we had Joy TV, we had LDM, we had ZBC, TV1 and TV2, and MBCA, right? All these stations at one time were running on the same analog frequency. But years later, we moved to only a single TV station. And that TV station has sort of lost viewership, except for those that cannot afford cable TV. And then in 2015, Zimbabwe missed the International Telecoms Union deadline to switch from analog to digital. So they're still using very analog systems to broadcast, which makes it difficult now with the new technologies that are coming through with the smart TVs and so forth. And one of the requirements was that when they finally managed to digitize, they would need to get some on top of the box, devices so that people are able to transfer or transform their signal from analog to digital. And now it's already 5 years later, digitization has not been completed. The TV stations, we've heard this announcement for so many years. They come through from time to time, make the announcement, but there seem to be not so much commitment and will. But maybe the recent developments indicate an effort to finally get the process to kickstart. But what's interesting is that from the names that are listed as shortlisted institutions that apply for the license, if you do just a random search for them online, you'd find 60% of them are not even existent online. They don't even have even social media handles. They don't even have websites. And then you start to think, at what point when they get the license that they're starting to create? Or are they ghosting for other stations like what happened with Kingstones? So it's quite interesting dynamics. And also when which kind of players are going to get the license? Is it going to be the same way that we saw ZFM getting the license, knowing that these are political interests, people with political interests that are belonging to the political institution that is running the country, which makes it very difficult because if you look on the global level, TV somehow shapes the narrative of a country. If you look at South Africa, with even the crime and the violence that happens there, what we see is a very beautiful narrative that comes through the TV. And there is almost every source for everything. If you want church material, you can actually go to another channel. If you want music, you can just go on one channel and watch music the whole day. But Zimbabwe has been deprived of that opportunity. But now a lot of disruption is coming through. You see young people innovating within that space, creating alternative content and plugging into the internet. So by the time that we finally get the license, I think it's going to be very late for viability of those stations, but also in terms of what it means for content creators, if content creators are going to get paid. 2 days ago, I was watching Jonathan was saying when they switched from the previous setup to 100% local content, it was also pushed by the need to cut down the budget that was being paid towards international content producers, which was quite huge for ZBC, which was debt-ridden. So I think the move that is coming, it's a bit too late because a lot of changes are happening and predictions are saying that in the next 15, 20 years, people will not be watching TV. And then lastly, when I look at the changes that are happening here in Europe, young people are not watching TV. Their phones are their TV. Why? Because it gives them the opportunity to decide what content they want to watch and when they want to watch it and how they want to watch it. And also the subscriptions are coming very cheap. That's my thought.
No, I totally agree. I think there's been a whole lot of disruption in terms of the way we view content. Streaming, Netflix, Amazon, Disney, all these guys are throwing in the numbers in terms of money in creating content and disrupting your linear viewers and getting them to your video on demand. It's more interactive TV than it is anyway. So, I need to be able to text and say, oh, I'm enjoying your show, and probably get an immediate response. That's how I connect my content now. So the future of TV in Zimbabwe has to then start looking at what is trending and what's there. If Kwese couldn't stick around for this bit because they're licensing with Roku, which is the biggest streaming platform, that was a big deal, and it was across Africa. And it was a big win for Zimbabwe because that meant a whole lot of opportunity for content creation, for a whole lot of people, employment and stuff like that. But that also then simply died. I think Audrey looking at the content being created right now in Zim. I remember there was a little debate that went on around saying, yeah, we don't know these guys were pure on a license, but there are a lot of content creators. Why not give those guys licenses? I think earGROUND was even thrown on there. But my debate was, will earGROUND or even Play Africa TV be able, to run a TV station? Because it's not like, oh yeah, I got the license and I can run it. What would be your thoughts around licensing now? Is the content, do we have enough people creating the content?
And it's funny you should ask me that, Nick, because as I was doing research for this conversation, I found a statement from Nick Mangwana, who is claiming, I think once again about 2 years ago, that ZBC literally has almost 10,000 hours of content that they have at the moment, and they're just waiting to switch on the button, once, all the stations are then commissioned. And I'm thinking to myself, who's producing this content? Where are you getting this content from? Of course, that question was not answered. But I think let's not get it twisted. The issue of state-owned media is not only unique to Zimbabwe. It's a phenomenon that's across the world. But then the issue of making that being the monopoly is what then stifles the growth of filmmakers and producers. And I think with Zimbabwe, it really has set us back decades and decades, and I don't know how we're going to catch up. I really don't know how we're going to catch up. It's quite frustrating to see the amount of talent that we have, then bleeding out into other countries, and seeing people trying to find how they can maximize on their talent elsewhere. The ZBC has a very long way to go. I must commend ZTN though. I do follow some of their work, and I think they've really stepped up the bar. The fact that they are mostly owned once again by the government is another issue, that because the issue of credibility is also very important when it comes to content. Once you lose that credibility with the people that consume the kind of, whether it's news or entertainment, whatever it is that you bring out, once that social contract has been breached, it's difficult for you to be able to have a return on investment, or to have that, turn it into a business, so to speak. And I think ZBC has kind of lost that. They need to rebrand. They need to get the trust back from the people, so that people can be able to connect once again. And I don't know how it's going to happen. I'm not an expert on that, but I know it's an important part of the transformation that needs to happen going forward.
Yeah.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, just quite interesting because change and now the new station. What the people you still find there are communities that don't have a signal coming through. You go to as far as maybe Kezi, Lotito, some of the places they have no signal. So we still have a limited, community being able to access TV, and then you have power cuts. So then all of that comes into play to say at what point are creatives or the content creators on the TV stations going to be able to pay. We've seen with the radio stations right now that have been licensed, only a few, ZBC, ZFM, Star FM are the ones that are able, and Nyami are the ones, and Diamond, they're the only ones that are paying royalties for artists and content creators and composers. You'd find the majority out of the 17 that are licensed, the rest, like 10, are not able to pay. They have not paid even a single cent in terms of royalties. So they are literally getting money from advertisers. That is if they're getting some, but a lot of them are struggling. I know, for example, one station in Shavane, which is said to be struggling very badly. And there is not real business that is there. As much as, even if the media is working properly, but still the economy then comes into play. Where is the money? A company is able to advertise. Because now we start to see some of the companies now becoming content creators. One good example is Nash TV, right? Nash TV is a product of Nash Paints. Nash Paints was initially putting content on ZBC on Power FM and Star FM. You know, they were paying for adverts and stuff, but now look, they're creating their own content. And this kind of disruption is also going to come into effect when it comes to the TV station setup.
Absolutely, I totally agree on that. And I wanted to still zone in terms of the content. Now that you mentioned Nash TV, I mean, we have a lot of guys creating content right now. I think there's Ngonda TV, Passport, is it Passport TV? You know, handing out content for people. We had the lockdowns sessions that were happening. Also trying to support the arts industry, mostly our musicians. And this is not what is being done by the national broadcaster in terms of being creative enough to initiate some of these things and being close to the people. But they can't do that because their mandate is to, you know, give us the information that I think is important at that time. And they're also following a government directive in what content to churn out. But we did, I think Audrey did mention the issue about national broadcasters not unique to Zim. What interests me is having a national broadcaster that is able to diversify and also look like they do listen to the people, and their content is not propaganda fed to you when you're sleeping, when you wake up, as you're going. But to be able to allow even Nash TV to bring in good content, and that content, you know, just make a huge difference. I wouldn't want Nash TV to, you know, to then look into go full spectrum or whatever it is in terms of a TV station. I wouldn't see them having enough content to run it. It will become the same kind of content, in my view, and that tend to, you know, fade out in time. But take that piece of content that you're good at creating and giving it to a platform that is already existing. If we're going to have 3 or 4 TV stations in Zim, I'm happy. I'm still going to be happy at this stage, and then allow the others to stream content as well with licenses that they give. That's my own view. I'm not so sure what you guys think in terms of just accessibility of content that we want on these major platforms. ZBC has the millions that are still watching, but it's the same type of content. It's not changing to the standards of what we're seeing the other guys are doing and creating. I'm not sure what Tony, Audrey, you think, and Plot. Let's just kick it off now. I'm not going to be asking questions. Let's just throw it out there. If you want to say something, go for it.
Yeah, I just want to speak particularly on the current affairs and politics side, on the news side, because that's what I do. You know, as much as you spoke about having a state-owned media, we see a lot of the opposition parties, opposition voices in Zimbabwe finding home and solace and a mouthpiece in foreign media houses, especially here in South Africa, especially of late, because they're not able to find that back home. And you know, in a democracy, it shouldn't be that way. That's the social contract that I keep talking about between the people, especially if you're a public broadcaster, because my understanding of how that business is run is, you know, it's run from a national budget that is owned by the people. So you should be able to give people content that serves them. And if it's only going to be serving one particular party, then already, you know, people are going to be disgruntled. So there really needs to be that mindset shift with the people that are in the ivory towers, you know, to say, look, what we've been doing hasn't been working. It is not working. We really need to change. The SABC, for example, you'll find Julius Malema there, you'll find the Democratic Alliance being given a voice to speak to the people. And that's the kind of transformation that we're looking for, because we end up being named and being given all these names to say we are against the state. You know, all the journalists that are working outside of Zimbabwe, you know, are from the opposition. But it's precisely because they're not being given a voice back home. And this is the only place that they can speak to us. And we give them that platform, and they speak to us, and they speak to their masses and to their people. You spoke about, I think, this YouTube channel that is, what is it called? I forgot. Nash TV. I understand, I don't have a lot of expertise in that department, but I understand that, you know, music streaming really is the market leader these days when it comes to on-demand content. But you can't do that with news and current affairs and talk shows, because the kind of content that is being discussed there is things that are happening at the moment, breaking news, because you can't then go to your laptop 5 hours later and look for breaking news. It's already happened. But if you're watching the news directly on television, and you're watching ZBC or ENCA, SABC, CNN, or whatever it is, you're able to get that content right away. Or if you're watching The Talk or other talk shows that are out there, because they deal with things that are happening at that very minute, which is different from, you know, you can watch a movie about the Terminator 10 years later, you still find it on a live streaming service. So there's that difference as well.
Okay, Tony.
Yeah, I actually do agree, because in terms of diversity in Zim, we are lacking, and we are lagging behind. I know MISA Zimbabwe, they've been, for years, they've been, you know, fighting with the authorities, insisting on Zimbabwe having, you know, different radio stations, different TV stations, but it has not been happening, and it has actually created like a vacuum for, you know, for broadcasters, for content creators. That's why we see, even in Zim, my study is currently looking at sort of why online media setups are actually thriving in Zim more than they are in SA. You then understand that we, in a way, created that environment. There's a vacuum. There is really no one else who is providing that content that is supposed to be provided by maybe a national broadcaster or, you know, standard stations. But we don't have that. So now we've got this niche that is opened up in the, you know, we now have like Bastop TV doing well on social media. We have Nash TV doing well on social media. But those you know, those things you will not find in SA, for instance. They are not very popular. Why? Because the media space is open. You know, the government is opened up. You've got community radio stations, community TV stations. So you then discover that, you know, they are nurturing and grooming talents from, you know, from the neighborhood, from the ghettos, everywhere they are doing that. But we haven't been able to do that. Now you see more people who are experienced, more people are actually living Zim, because the space is very limited. And then you also then have to also understand now that I also mentioned that we are too late. We are too late. There are private owned stations that have been making money for all these years, when, you know, the media business model was still allowing media houses to make money. But, you know, so they can use that money now to then transform and even move to platforms like online platforms, streaming platforms. But we don't have that. Like, you know, ZBC, they really don't have a very good online presence. And they, until recently now, we have ZT, and they've been trying, and it's actually commendable. But we lack a lot. So I think we still have like a long way to go, and we still have a lot to catch up on. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think another factor is what Nico mentioned, interactability of TV. That now people are now going for TV where they're able to interact. And also, I think for the market, for advertisers, they're also looking at TV that is able to give them analytics, that is able to give them data to say who are they reaching out to, what is sort of the age group, and what are the interests of those people. And I think it's very difficult to actually get this through the normal TV, but digital platforms are able to give you all of that, you know, the age groups and so forth. So for anyone who's targeting a market that they would want to be able to define and create also content based on the demands of that market, you'd find digital is the way to go. And internet could be expensive in Zimbabwe right now, but I tell you, in the next 2-3 years, internet will be far cheaper than anything else. Why? You remember just in 2007, a few years ago, the SIM card in Zimbabwe was going for 200, 300 US dollars. But right now it's almost for free, it's for $1. So for somebody, the reality might be too far, but if you look at just the transformation that have happened, 3 years ago, you could not find smartphones easily. You could not find these in the villages. But right now, even somebody who has never had any schooling or is going to school, maybe grade 1 to 2, who's heading cattle in the village, you find them, they have a smartphone, they understand how WhatsApp works. And now these platforms are coming integrated with the video, with audio, with the pictures and stuff. And the news, if you want news, it's coming on demand. It's like real time as things are happening. By the time that you have your cameraman, you have your crew and everybody, and you send your file, you do this and that, the news is already out there and people are able to discern whether it's true or not. But the biggest challenge now for online platforms is to create credible content that people are able to sort of, especially if it's news, to say, okay, I'm going to get my content from this platform because it's credible. Or this is fake news, how do we discern real news from fake news? But as far as entertainment is concerned, I'm able to monetize my content on YouTube, on Facebook. I'm now able to monetize. We're now able to make people pay. So you can actually see your money coming through. One good example is what did, College Central. These guys, they created a series, they put it online, they put a budget of 5,000 to create it. They 10 episodes, but they hoped to get their money after 10 months, but they got their money within the first 2 months, and they managed to surpass the target that they'd set. So you can actually see the dynamics. And then the diaspora community forming the big base. When I was looking at the listenership of music in South Africa on YouTube, you would find on number 18 is a Zimbabwean artist, and then you realize that the Zimbabwean audience outside of Zimbabwe is actually consuming a lot of content from Zimbabwe. So it's going to also determine the dynamics. But lastly, you also find platforms running from outside Zimbabwe. You have Zimbo Live, you have earGROUND, you have Play Africa TV, you have so many of these platforms that are running offshore and being able to fill that void, get a real-time content that people are starting to believe in and also bring business to.
Absolutely. I think the issue that COVID came and showed us that we're sitting on what we could potentially be doing as content creators. I just came from a call with one of the presidents of the unions that represents filmmakers and stage and TV people here in Canada. One of the things he did mention was, as much as we are crying that, craftspeople that come and work on sets are not employed now, I think it was also high time that people start thinking about the future. Where is content creation going? Netflix is there, all these other platforms are there, and they're pushing more of the demand content. Remember when I said interactive content, where I need to later on, I will need to feel like I'm in the movie. I think the technology is being developed now, moving from 3D to whatever 5D it is, where I'm almost like I'm in there and I'm probably part of the action. That's where content is going. And 4K came. We're still talking analog in Zimbabwe. We shouldn't be talking analog right now. We should at least be talking what the other guys are trying to do, streaming their content, either online for YouTube or whatever it is. ZBC, I know technology has been set up there. I'm not so sure if they've switched yet, but the national grid is not really switched to that kind of technology that we need to be in. So everything has been disrupted because of COVID. We're starting to have a new realization. I think, Audrey, you could be called in and you're told, oh no, we're doing news from your house today because there is a case at the studio. So, you have to be ready
and those things have happened, absolutely. And those things have happened. COVID has really pushed us out of our comfort zone and showed us the possibilities that we didn't even realize were there. You know, being able to broadcast from home and being able to report from home and it's not even really that complicated. I mean, we've been talking about the fourth industrial revolution, this animal that is called fourth industrial revolution. Yep. And you know, how we utilize it. And then we look back home again, it's very painful to see where we still are. I mean, I remember about 3 years ago, I got a call from ZBC, and they were purporting to be wanting to start a 24-hour news channel, and they wanted me to help launch it. And of course, I was excited for it. I was like, yes, absolutely. I will not be able to do it full time, but I can come and help launch it, and you know, give it the time and it needs. And up to now, still nothing hasn't happened. So again, it goes back to political will. I believe, you know, that
I can tell you something has been happening. They just didn't want to. Then there's someone who said, no, Audrey, I can't tease that channel 9. I mean, it's that's the attitude that's there. Unfortunately, to say it out loud, it's.
Problem.
They've been planning, they've been doing trials, they've been running it, but this is me. I would definitely get someone who has had hands-on experience in terms of doing probably international news reporting and broadcasting. What we've been doing in Zim in terms of news casting, we you know, I'm gonna say it bluntly, would want a news anchor from ZBC to probably go and have the training. But what you've been having is boss wangu inini, as a news anchor, would go for my training and want to come back and train me or tell me what to do. I'll tell you that doesn't work. People need to learn to specialize and let go of certain things. If you're the boss, it doesn't mean you have to know everything. You know, you're not the news anchor. Allow the news anchors to go for that training and come back and edify and glorify and make it look glamorous at ZBC there. If it's the engineers, allow the engineers to go and get the training. I was arguing with some guys on the recent movie that was done, China. They're saying, oh, there's South African crews, they had few crews. But I say to some guys, that was a good opportunity for any Zim crew to take in and say, oh, we want to come and shadow or whatever it is, because those crews have done the most. They've used technology that some of the crews in Zimbabwe haven't done. Some of the etiquette and protocols on sets, we haven't been doing them, but these guys have been doing it. So why not learn? Why not, you know, go be in there and learn than to then try and find faults and claim that the film is not Zimbabwean just because the crews were not. So there's still a lot of mentality that we need to deal with now, not necessarily by the politicians or on the government level, but on the individual levels as well. As content consumers, what are we yearning to see? Drama, Ndapangoita Pokelo and Stana fighting. That's what we want, you know? We want the Kardashians kind of a content, reality TV. That's what is been the thing that we've been yearning for. So the moment we're exposed to it, we're like, oh, wait a minute. We can actually also create this kind of content, or, oh, wait a minute, Zimbabweans can actually do this? You know, it's that kind of a shock at the same time with excitement. Oh, okay, we can actually do it. We can actually be dramatic. We can actually be all this and stuff like that. So there is that gap. The void is there, but also there's the anticipation of, oh, okay, what is going to happen if those guys get the licenses? What is the content that is going to come? What's the style? Are we going to match up with what the world is already doing, or are we going to be better? ZTN, I'm happy to talk about it because I'm a baby from there. But I'm still not satisfied with what the potential that is there. for a station, but also being the father and the mother of the station also leaves you at those crossroads and say, okay, is it going to then be more of the controlled content that we don't want to see, or don't want Rambai Makashinga kind of setup in there? I don't know, guys, but this is me. This is how I've been seeing the future of our TV in Zim. I don't think we're going to be as ready as we want it to be in the next 5 years. If I'm to throw it out there, we still have a lot of work to do. Our case study is ZBC, and our case study is also ZTN. Those two came and they showed the potential. Another case study with the Kwese, it came, it got hit by the economy, it kind of disappeared. We're packing our bags, we're gone. I'm happy, Plot, you mentioned Anajoy TV, all those guys back then. I mean, it was starting to look like something is happening, and it all just got switched off just like that. The future of TV, if you start going the route Yana Joy TV, are you going to be just switched off? Or, you're going to remain strong and fighting? What's going to happen, Tony, Audrey, Plot? I'm not so sure.
But let's look at the root of the business of television to start with, and whether it's viable in Zimbabwe as it is, because I think that's another thing that keeps, the future of television afloat. Advertising, marketing. Is the economy really in a state to be able to fund that? I don't know what you guys think, and perhaps you could help us with the business side of it.
I think it's going to be a struggle. A big struggle, because if you look at Kwese TV, it was run by the biggest tax-paying company in Zimbabwe, earGROUND. And for earGROUND to get to a point where they say, look, this is not working, that says a lot. Maybe for a small-scale TV station, but looking at the fees that you have to pay and the team that you have to put in place to run a TV, be it 8 hours or 24 hours, and the competition that you're also facing, because you're not doing this in a vacuum. Now you're no longer competing with ZBC or ZTN. You're not competing with what's appearing on Netflix. You're competing with Showmax. You're competing with DSTV. And these are people that have already created institutions, that have created also brands, and are able to pay for some of the content. So for me, I'm interested in music. Will I go on a Zimbabwean TV station for me to access music, or I just go on YouTube and combine that with my SoundCloud or other platforms that is able to give me, a look into what is musical that is coming from Zimbabwe. So I think it's a challenge on the creatives. It's a challenge, big challenge on the creatives, especially because they've not been able to create a viable industry. There are no structures. In South Africa, there are film guilds, there are broadcasting unions. There is almost every structure that protects the interest of almost every player, from the broadcasters to the audience. The audience are protected. They're able to lodge in complaints if they're not happy about certain content. But if you look at Zimbabwe, yes,
ZBC has a complaints commission. You do me that email,
but I mean, it's still far-fetched. I know it could have, we used to have faked an opinion back then, and it was working, I think. But I think this is going to be a big challenge than we think. There's going to be excitement. I think the first 12 months, we'll see the excitement, people loving to see what they see on TV. But look, stars are being created online. Now you don't need to be on TV to become a star in Zimbabwe. You simply need to create cool content. And today with Madam Boss, who attracts a huge traffic and bigger following than even ZBC combined. You have Pokelo, who is the biggest following as compared to all the media houses in Zimbabwe combined. So when you look at those dynamics, and then you see now where TV is going, you have TikTok, which is created, it's on TikTok TV, small videos. You have Instagram, you have so many of these platforms. So who are the target audience? Who are going to pay? Are people paying licenses already? under the current setup, people will not even pay license. They're not able to afford these licenses. They're running away from license inspectors. So where is the money going to come?
Yeah. True.
Yeah,
and I think you sorry, did I cut someone off there? Tony, yes. No, it's
oh,
fine.
I just wanted to actually say I agree with what Plot has been saying. I think Nico also mentioned that the media business model has changed. It used to be linear, but now it's haphazard. Everything goes. And in Zim now, the situation is even worse. You have a situation whereby 90% of the population is said to be unemployed, or they are self-employed. They sell things on a very, very small scale. Are those people going to be advertising on the new television station? So it's something that we really need to think about. We don't have too many industries in Zimbabwe that can actually advertise their content, their products on TV. So that is something that we really need to consider. Do we have enough industries to support the media? Because the media is based on advert. It's actually the media business model used to be based on advert from advertisers, but now those guys can actually access audiences on their own via social media. So they would rather pay Facebook or YouTube to advertise their content. So it actually means for us, in the media, for even the new television stations that are going to be, licensed soon, it's going to be even very, very tough. And they are going to be competing with a lot of things, with citizen journalists, because everyone with a cell phone now can actually create content and share content and get views and become popular. So we really need to then start thinking about a new business model. How are we going to become sustainable as as we are going to be going forward? And I would also like to just ask, Plot, Nico, and Miss Audrey, if you are going to be given a television license today in Zim, not anywhere else in Zim, what will you do? Considering the situation there, the electricity, how things are expensive in terms of producing content, in terms of running a station, in terms of the equipment. A basic camera now is about, in SA, is about 13,000 rands. This is just a basic camera. So for you to run a television station, what do you need? Are you able to actually pay to actually invest in that? And will you get a return on that investment in the next 5 or even in the next 10 years? Will your investment be sort of profitable in the next 5 or 10 years? So that is something that I need you to think about, you guys. Are we, the four of us, if you are to be given an opportunity to start a TV station now in Zim, is it viable? It's really something that we need to think about. Or we need to then have to think beyond, TV zedu. We need to then start thinking about moving online, honestly. So if these new players are not even considering that, then we are actually in for, it's going to be a very short, like Claude said, maybe 12 months. And after that, it starts thinking in the issue of sustainability. Is this going to be viable in the next 5 years? Who is going to be paying for that? Because already the advertisers are no longer there. They've moved on. They now have access to audiences on their own using social media. So those are some of the things that we need to be thinking about, the issue of sustainability going forward. So yeah.
I think, Tony, you've answered that question for us already. I mean, it's a no-brainer for me personally. I think, look, in terms of Zimbabwe, they're 40 years too late, or maybe 20 years too late to even try and start opening up the airwaves and whatnot. Vanhu vatomhanya nechimutiana, Madam Bossy, they've already got, I mean, if you look at a lot of Zimbabweans in the diaspora, even locally, they have their YouTube stars, they have their Facebook stars that they watch, and the viewership that they receive is enormous. If you just look at the numbers alone, the endorsement that Anamai Titi and them get, that's revenue that ZBC could have been getting, but they're not getting. Instead, it's going to people that are utilizing the digital space to create content. So I don't see it happening anytime soon. I don't think it'll be it'll be viable to start that business. And maybe I'm being myopic in the way that I'm looking at it. And I hope I can be proven wrong, because particularly with ZBC, just like Nico was saying about ZTN, I'm very passionate about ZBC because that's where I cut my broadcasting teeth. And I really wanted to be able to come out of this quagmire that it's in and open its eyes and really be the shining, you know, symbol that it's supposed to be. But then again, you know, here we are. There's absolutely no Wi-Fi and smartphone. All you need.
Right. I think we're getting an indication that our time is up. From
well, I just wanted to say, Tony, in your license, ndara ndinorinwira ndinosera taritengesa chop chop. No, very fast. Because it's an animal altogether right now to maintain. I 10,000 hours of content. I thought there. I mean, I had someone who runs a distribution business. I've been talking to this last week because they're thinking of, you know, giving us free content for our platform. And you were saying, you know, I've got 2,000 hours of content I can sell to you. And 2,000 is a lot. Yeah. Like literally a lot of content. I can grab that and
creator, they understand that.
Yeah.
An hour of content is a lot. Imagine 10,000 hours.
10,000 hours. And I'm thinking, who has been creating this content? Is that the Zim Digital crew during that time? Content, all these other areas, you know, training people to create content. And is that the content they're talking about? If that's the content, yo, ndinoritengesa license rangu mdara, ndinorinwira rangu ndinorinwira because super tight. But I've been previewed to be with ZTN, and we were talking to content creators all over the world for us. And I don't want to say much because you know, I have a contract obligation that I signed with these guys, and they're still to launch. So certain information should have been out there. But I can tell you, content is expensive. If Kwese couldn't handle it for a while, and be still running now, and they have all these monies they're making with, you know, airtime, kuzimu, you know, and then you would wonder why the content business is expensive. It is what it is. You know, people spend so much money creating the content and they want their money back. So it can't be sold out cheap. And that's why even in the interview with Jonathan Moore that he had with Jesse, he did mention, you know, they were losing a lot of Forex with the content, but they had to pay out a lot of money, you know. And then when 100% was introduced, it felt like we're being robbed again. 100% local content. It had, you know, underlying factors. There's a lot of things that people have to consider when they're starting a TV station, let alone a radio station. Look at the radio stations currently. Content struggle. It's a duplication of content, you know, creativity lacking here and there. And it's a struggle. And we just have a few radio stations, really. What more for TV? What more for TV?
Funny enough is the content that they actually broadcast on radio and TV, they're getting it from digital content creators. So once again, it takes you back to who the king is at the moment, and that's digital content creators, because that's the kind of content that they discuss during their conversations. Your TV, your radio DJs, your TV hosts, they're literally taking their content from digital, from Twitter, from Facebook, and whatnot. Yes, Clark. I know.
With earGROUND, we've been streaming like 2 shows, you know, one comedy show and another one. And now they're on ZBC after, like, I think we had a run of like 8 weeks. And I've seen that also with Wadiwa Pamoyo. It ran on YouTube and now it's on TV. So you see, radio, the main radio, TV, they're now running after what's happening online. So internet has literally taken over. There's still a possibility that things could improve. I mean, if you have TV stations, maybe for the meantime, but it's too late.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Absolutely. And
I think I agree.
Yeah. Probably with my last point on this one, sorry, Johnny, to just then say there is potential for linear. Terrestrial TV, ZBC has the viewers. Very cool. A lot of people are still watching ZBC right now. And they rely it on certain information dissemination, what's happening, especially by news hour. A lot of people watch the news hour because that's where they think there's the reality of the content and also the opportunity to fan out what they're feeling and what is being churned out on the news. So that's the interactive moment of ZBC there. But I'm saying that the opportunity, if the guys that are coming, probably two of them are given the linear, the terrestrial license to then be like ZBC and still churn out the content that we're producing for these online platforms and allow the independent producers to come with their good content, there's an opportunity for millions to actually still watch and appreciate this localized content and still make probably a local killing in terms of revenue. But there is a lot of investment that needs to be looked at there. And there's a lot of control that is still going to be there. I'm not going to see anytime soon where there's going to be a really independent broadcaster in Zimbabwe, churning out content coming from the opposition party. Freely, willy-nilly, it's not gonna be anytime soon. So that's my closing on this one, and I can only wish for the best. We really want to go back home and be involved in content creation and develop Africa essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, Audrey, you want to say something?
Yeah, just closing remarks as well. Look, I think this was an important conversation to have, but just it sheds okay someday, just not happening at the moment. I just wanted to say congratulations to you, Nick, on your film that is going to be premiering on the world stage, I think on the 27th of September. Great stuff. That's our Zimbo right there. All the best as well to Tony with your studies and to Plot for giving us this platform. I mean, earGROUND is also doing remarkable things. So all the best with your future endeavors as well.
Thank you so much. I think it's been an honor to have you here. When you agreed, we were super excited. And the input that has been coming through, I think it's been awesome. It's been great. But also, I think the other beautiful thing is that we're all scattered around the globe. We're learning something from wherever we are. And I think at some point, when our skills and our knowledge are going to be plugged back home, it's going to see Zimbabwe thrive. I see it with Nigeria, they're doing that. And there's also the beautiful side of it to say, what is it that we're learning from outside? There's also a very interesting, because TV is narrative, it's stories. What narratives are? Zimbabwe has millions of untold stories. And I think these stories are the worth that we have right now as content creators and also as TV to say the world needs to hear that. Zimbabwe needs to hear a lot of these stories. Not only stories about poverty, but also beautiful stories about different things that are happening from the cultural, sporting, creative aspects. So thank you so much. Tony, thank you so much. Nico, thank you so much. It's been great to partner. You see these partnerships, I hope that also the TV stations that are coming through are also going to partner with some of the independent producers, but also online to be able to. I see that ZTN is doing that with Zim Celebs. They're cross-posting their content there.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's about the numbers really, eh? So, my numbers, you can't work in isolation now. It's take your content where the people are consuming it, and you might get a few dollars out of it. Yeah.
Right.
But thank you, guys. Thank you. It's
Thank
been
you so
good.
much to everybody who's been watching. Production by Play TV Africa in partnership with earGROUND, and it's been an interesting conversation talking about the future of TV, with specific interest to Zimbabwe and the globe. Until next time, stay tuned. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Tony, Audrey, Nico.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.